Good morning, friends, or good afternoon, depending on your time zone. We are here again. I have with me Dr. Godwin Asemota. I'm Dr. Olukemi Asemota. Today, we are looking at unlocking research potential using the 5 Ws and H techniques for generating vital research ideas. This presentation will explore how to harness the power of the 5 Ws and H, meaning how to use who, what, when, where, why, and how to spark innovative research ideas. These techniques are invaluable tools for researchers across various disciplines, fostering systematic inquiry and comprehensive understanding. Let's delve into how these techniques can revolutionize your approach to research. You see, the 5 Ws and H techniques are tools that researchers, postgraduate students should have at their fingertips to be able to help them to think through their research. Why these techniques? Why do we need to use this tech? Decoding the 5 Ws and H is a foundation for inquiry in your research, okay? It's a versatile framework that promotes thorough examination of a subject, whichever angle you are coming from, whichever discipline, whichever profession or research you want to engage in, it will help you. It will enhance your critical thinking by prompting comprehensive exploration, ensuring that all relevant angles are considered and addressed during research. The technique is used to investigate any topic from multiple perspectives, leading to more well-rounded and robust research ideas. Like I said, the 5 Ws and H. What, when you talk about what is looking at the systematic approach to inquiry. What is it that you really want to look for? Okay, and the technique will provoke your ideas, your thoughts. It will help you to engage in critical thinking, which is required in advanced research, so that it will help you to develop robust research ideas that is detailed and explores every aspect. Okay. For example, when we talk about the why is talking about the reason or reasons behind your inquiry. You to comprehensively explore a topic. If you talk about when, it means when do you want to use this data? When do you want to conduct this research? When do you want to design the methodology? When talks about, at the beginning of the research process, you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do? When am I going to do it? And where in this technique we are talking about is looking at the applicability across discipline. You can use it across the discipline, across each different disciplines. Okay. And also where talks about the location, but we are going to go as we proceed in the discussion of this presentation. We get to know. We are just trying to lay the foundation of the 5 Ws and H. Okay. So in this context, is reflect. We are going to look at each chapter of a thesis, each chapter of a research inquiry. For example, every university has its own house style. Some universities have chapters 1 to 7, some chapters 1 to 5. The social sciences, basically, the research thesis may be between chapters 1 to 5, and in some sciences, it may be between chapters 1 to 7, depending on the level, whether masters, especially PhD level. Okay, so friends, colleagues, postgraduate students, please pay attention. Anytime you listen to this, you can go back again and again and be able to get to know what you are doing. Okay, so for example, if you are in the science or engineering and your research is based on design, construction, or testing, you will have more than 5 chapters. Like I said, the essence of this presentation and discussion is to know how to use the 5 Ws and H to generate robust research ideas clearly, not just to think, but clearly. Okay, let's proceed to the next slide. We have already explained why use the technique. Why the technique? What is the technique you want to use? When to use the technique? Where to use the technique? Whom to use the technique with? The how of using the technique. That is the focus of this discussion. Okay, so that takes us to the steps we are going to follow. Research roadmap, navigating the key stages. Okay, we are going to look at each step in your research, in your research thesis. Okay, every chapter has its own unique area or scope to follow. For example, you start your research with the introduction, followed by the statement of the problem, literature review, methodology, analysis of data, interpretation of data, and findings, summary, conclusion, okay, recommendations, contribution to knowledge, and further studies or open questions. Okay, so here we are looking at each stage of your research while you are going to present it in your thesis. Research follows a series of crucial steps. Okay, it's not just a fire brigade or a hook, line, and sinker model. It is a very serious endeavor, a very serious project we want to embark upon. So every research takes a series of crucial steps to follow. Okay, each stage benefits from the application of the 5 W's and H. You see, we are talking about introduction, chapter 1. How do you do it? What do you want to do in chapter 1? When do you want to do it? With whom? Why do you have to do it in chapter 1? These are the questions we are looking at. And the 5 W's and H will help you to think through your chapter 1, for example, providing a structured approach to deepen understanding and formulate targeted questions. These techniques enable refinement of your methodology and enhance the impact of your contribution to knowledge. Like I've said earlier, each step is very important. You look at your introduction, problem statement, literature review, as I've mentioned. I may not have them written verbatim on the slide that I'm showing, but that's what we have mentioned earlier. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. The next slide is talking about crafting compelling introductions. Okay, setting the stage. Introduction. The introduction aspect of your research still will help you if you know how to use the 5 W's and H techniques. Okay, a well-crafted introduction captures the reader's interest, because introduction, when you start well, yes, you may likely end well too. But when the introduction is poorly crafted, is poorly presented, people will be at a loss because they wouldn't know what we are talking about, and they don't even, right from the introduction aspect, the readers must be able to see and be able to understand what we are trying to say, not that they are thinking about another thing and they are not getting what we are saying. So it's a well-crafted introduction that will attract readers' attention. Okay, so the 5 W's and H will guide the articulation of its necessity, scope, and relevance. Using the 5 W's and H approach ensures that the introduction is well-rounded and provides a clear overview of the research topic and its significance. So when we talk about what, it's talking about what, that is the topic and the purpose. You see, what is the introduction for the research topic? That is what we are saying. We are now talking about the introduction aspect of your research, okay, which starts with chapter 1, and using 5 W's and H techniques to provoke your understanding, to provoke your ideas, to help you to have detailed and robust, and help you to explore every aspect of the topic you want to embark upon. Okay, so when we talk about the what in the under introduction, it is what is the introduction for the research topic. What is the introduction? How do you do the introduction? Okay, you see, I'm now linking it with how. How is the method you are going to use to write, and what are you writing? What is it about? Okay, that is what we are talking about again. Then why the need for the introduction? Why the need for the research? And you will tell us in your statement why you are writing that, and that's talking about the why. And who Who needs the introduction? The target audience or the stakeholders, the readers, the professionals in your field, the government of that organization, of the nation, and the players in that field of endeavor. Okay, so we look at when is the time for the introduction. It is at the start of your research, because introduction cannot come at the end of your research. You need to introduce, even at every point in time, you need short introduction to introduce your readers into the main chapter of that particular work. So introduction, chapter 1 is introduction generally into the whole thesis. Chapter 2 has a small portion of introduction. Chapter 3 has a small portion of the introduction. Chapter 4 has a small portion of the introduction, and chapter 5 too will introduce readers into the conclusion and recommendations and the contributions, and also so every chapter has the introduction aspect of research. So you must be able to know, why is it important, when is it necessary, who needs the introduction, where. So why do we have to ask ourselves these questions of direct W and H at every point in time under introduction? It will help us to know who we are addressing and what to communicate. If you are addressing the companies, or your audience are professionals in the engineering profession, or you are addressing the medical personnel, you are addressing the psychologists, you are addressing, your introduction must address issues that affect them, not something outside their field. Okay, so how is talking about how the introduction will be written. Let's proceed. I hope you are following, friends. Just listen. Then the next step is defining the problem. What we normally consider as the statement of the problem, which is the heart of any research, because without the problem, there's no topic. You start with the problem first before the topic. Okay, if you watch my previous videos, you will see what we have mentioned, I've discussed under the issue of statement of problems, although we are still going to look at this critically in detail later on the issue of problem statement. Okay, defining the problem is crucial for focused research. The 5 W's and H help specify the problem's nature, scope, and impact. By answering these questions, researchers can precisely frame the issues, ensuring clarity and relevance throughout the research process. When does the problem occur? That is the when. Okay, what is the problem? You must be able to identify. It's one thing to identify the problem. The other thing, which is very crucial and important, is defining the problem. Okay, so what is the problem? Where is the problem? The problem's location or context. Okay, where is it occurring? Who are the people affected by the problem? You see, you can see now that it will help you to marshal your points and be able to write concisely, precisely, exactly, backing your statement or problems with data and statistics of what has happened before, previously, that researchers have documented, and what is happening in that area you want to conduct your research. Because when you conduct your research in a particular problematic area, you want to offer solutions in that area. So it is important for you to ensure that you employ the 5 W's and H techniques correctly. So when you have already identified what is the problem, and you have identified and defined, then where is the problem occurring? Who are the people affected by that problem? When does the problem occur? Why did the problem occur at all? And how can the problem be solved? So when you are able to engage in this using the 5 W's and H, definitely you will really know that, yes, you will be able to harness all the necessary points and resources that will now make up your statement of the problem. Let's proceed. Let's proceed in the literature review. You see, we are now moving to the section of the literature review, navigating the literature landscape, effective review. We are not just talking about writing information. Your information you are writing under literature review must be relevant to the topic you have chosen, and must be talking about the problem you have identified that you want to solve. You cannot be writing outside the scope of what you are not going to dwell upon in your research. Okay, a thorough literature review informs research and identifies gaps. Applying the 5 W's and H would aid in determining relevant sources, understanding their importance, and executing an effective review. This approach ensures the review is comprehensive, targeted, and contributes effectively to the study. What are we talking about? The key terms here is literature, view, and review. If you look at literature review, let's look at that word, literature review. It has key terms that can be broken down into 3: literature, view, and review. Okay, so the literature is talking about the available documents in form of the written document, in form of data backed up with statistics previously uh, previously researched by other authors in that particular field of study or endeavor. The phenomena you are investigating, so that is what you are talking about. Then you are reviewing what others have done. You are doing that, and you are citing the authors, because in order to avoid the problem of plagiarism, you have to be careful. When you review journal articles related to what you are looking at, you must cite, and then authors that have done work on that area, and then you cite them under your references as well. Okay, so you look how do we use the 5 W's and H in this under literature review. You look at what type and sources of literature review do I need. Okay, what type, that is what sources. Identify the key literature. What type and sources of literature review do I need here? Where to source for the literature? Where to source for the literature? Where? Google, advanced Google search, journal articles, reports, reviews. It depends on what you are looking for. Okay. Also, you look at why is literature review important. It is very important to understand the existing knowledge, and also to be able to see other areas, because you are not the only one that it is not the first time. Many authors, many scholars, many researchers have worked in this area of knowledge before, but you want to add your little pinch, let me use that word, pinch, to add your own quota to knowledge in the society. So that is why. So why is literature review important? It's very important because you want to start from somewhere, and when you have gathered your data through the research, it will add the information you have done through the research analysis, and the findings will now add more to the body of knowledge. When is the literature sourced? The time you made up your mind that you want to engage in this research, then literature has started. Maybe you start on the desktop research, gathering information, reading wide, to make sure that your thoughts and the topic you have at hand, the burden of the problems, you'll be able to now make it in the concise. By reading through literature relevant to the problem you have at hand, will help you to organize your thought and your views, and you'll be able to make sure and you'll be able to ensure that you get through. Who needs the literature review? Your readers, the scholars, students, professors, organizations, and other stakeholders. How is literature review done? That's what we are talking about here. You analyze and synthesize findings, you put them together. I don't maybe I should call on Dr. Godwin if he has something to add.
Thank you, Doctor. Actually, the literature review is a very important aspect of any research. It gives you information on what has been done before. It displays the gaps. Then it says, what did you see? What have you looked at? Which aspects, what angle is present to you? When you look at it from this angle, you have a particular perspective. Look at another angle, you see a different perspective. So as you are seeing, looking, writing, and viewing, you are seeing different aspects. That's why I say review, re-see, re-look. So when you are not doing that, you are seeing different aspects, then it becomes clearer and more robust. Then when you are not getting to see that you have now had so much, then you are now seeing the same form, the same kind of information again and again. Then that tells you that we're now coming to the end of known literature. Then that brings you to a close of what you have done, which means you are now, what is available has been seen, has been synthesized, be put together. Then you are now going to see that what you have done is robust, and you now see how to go to the methodology. So, Dr. Kemi, you can take over.
Thank you, Dr. Godwin, uh, for those important additions that you have added. Okay, like we said, literature review, the key word there is literature, what is written or documented in any stored form for retrieval. The view means to physically see the document or artifacts and the sources. To review means after you have seen, you review. Re means again and again, seeing the literature in another light, perspective, angle, or dimension. That is why if many people review the same literature, we will see different things without copying each other. It can never be the same because reviewers are from different backgrounds, discipline, profession, experiences. They may be saying the same thing, but from different perspectives, unless they copy from each other, which leads to academic theft or cheating. So I think we have done a bit on this literature. Let's proceed to methodology. We are still looking at the discussion is using the 5 W's and H techniques for generating vital research ideas, because when we are writing, we are undergoing some project in research, it's not just writing stories, it's a very serious academic endeavor that needs skills in writing, skills in articulation, skill in formulating things and gathering information together. And then when you have information, how do you now put them together to represent what you are thinking, and that the readers will be able to understand, and when they are able to articulate as well what you have written and you are communicating to them. Okay, so let's look at the methodology. The methodology, designing the methodology, a structured approach. Okay, methodology is a very important step of any research endeavor. Okay, methodology is what you need to do. How do you want to conduct the research? What design, the population, the target audience, the sample size, the research design, and all sorts. Okay, so the methodology is talking about the procedure, the approach, the process. It is a step by step. One step leads to another, and which is the basic thing. There is no disjointed step. You cannot jump from the ground floor to the first floor. You have to start from the ground floor. Okay, so in the methodology stage, what are we looking for? How do we engage the 5 W's and H in thorough thinking and ensuring that we get what we want? Okay, what type of methodology? You ask yourself. Identify suitable approaches, the type of methodology you want to use. It may be mixed method, it may be just a qualitative method or quantitative, but at PhD level, you are expected to combine methodologies. Okay, where is the methodology used? Okay, whose methodology? Which methodology is appropriate? When can it be used? Why methodology? How can methodology be designed? Okay, these are the questions we ask ourselves. Okay, methodology section determines the research approach. The 5 W's and H will guide the choice of appropriate methods and application. Okay, this ensures the methodology is well suited to the research question and that is applied rigorously and ethically. Okay, let's move to the next one. This is data gathering your data. What are the strategies and considerations? How do we use the 5 W's and H? What is data gathering? Which data to gather? Why gather data? Where do you obtain the data? When do you gather the data? Who gathers the data? How do you gather the data? These are the questions you have to use using the 5 W's and H. Okay, at times the what, you can use even what in 5 different ways, which it depends on how you want to generate your ideas, and it will help you to think like we have said. Okay, by addressing each of these questions, the researcher ensures that data collection is strategic and well articulated, executed, and timely, enhancing the validity and the impact of the research. Let's move on. The next one is analysis of data. When you are analyzing data, you are trying to unveil insights and patterns. What has happened? How many percentage of people have responded? These are other things you have to do when you are looking beyond descriptive statistics. You are going to use also inferential statistics, where you use regression model and depending on the data that you have gathered. So you ask yourself at the analysis data stage, using the 5 W's and H, what is data analysis? Who will analyze the data? Who will the data affect? When is data analyzed? Where can data be analyzed? Why is data analyzed? How can data be analyzed? Okay, you can see the timing, that is the when of analysis. Why? Reason for analysis. Who will be affected by the data? Okay, and where is the data located? Or the data and then the location, and how we have explained all the 5 W's and H. You can also use beyond this. Okay, interpretation of data also is important. Okay, interpreting data means what? Drawing meaningful conclusions. You ask yourself, what is data interpretation? What is it used for? Why is data interpretation necessary? When is data interpreted? That is the time. Who does the data interpretation? The researcher. Where is the data interpreted? The workstation. How is the data interpreted? Data interpretation provides the narrative for research findings. Applying the 5 W's and H ensures that interpretations are well reasoned, contextually relevant, and contribute to the field's knowledge. The critical process bridges the gap between data and impact insights, enriching the overall research narrative. In summary, the 5 W's and H framework acts as a catalyst for thorough exploration at each research stage, enhancing the depth, validity, and impact of your finding. By systematically addressing these questions, researchers ensure a comprehensive and rigorous approach, contributing meaningfully to their research, to their respective fields. Okay, I think we are still together. Let's move on. Then we have the findings. What are the findings if you are using the 5 W's and H? Where are the findings obtained? When are the findings obtained? Who will use the findings? Why are the findings? And how will the findings be utilized? Okay, these are the questions. How are the findings? This is an error. Why are the findings? Not why is the finding. Okay, why are the findings? I may not be able to correct it, but it's talking about why are the findings. Okay, the findings are important. All this will help you to be able to know what to write. When you are writing your findings, it helps you to be focused and it makes you to be comprehensive, and you'll be able to match out your points and present your findings well and the analysis of the results. Okay, then that takes us to summary, conclusion, and recommendations. It says, why summary, conclusion, and recommendation? They provide a concise overview of the key findings, their significance, and future directions for research. When should they be written? They are typically written towards the end of the research process, after the full study has been conducted and analyzed. Who should write them and for who? The researchers if you are two, maybe you have a project, but we are talking about academic postgraduate students, researchers, and so you may have a team on a research. Everyone should have the section of research that has been allocated to each team member. But if it is your master's research, your PhD or postdoc, whatever you are doing, or you are the one that is responsible, your supervisor is just to guide you. You are taking responsibility for your work. So it is your work, it's not your supervisor's work. So the researcher should write them as the expert who conducted the study. They are intended for the academic community, supervisors, and potential readers and users of the research. Okay, what are they? Summary: a brief recap of the research objectives, methods, and key results. Conclusion is an interpretation of the findings and their implications. Recommendations talk about suggested future research applications and actions based on the study. Where should they be incorporated? They are usually included as separate sections or chapters at the end of the thesis. You see, you have summary, conclusion, and recommendation, but some may have summary and conclusion, then recommendation in another chapter, depending on the university house style. Okay, it's not a rigid case. Okay, so how should they be written? Concisely, clearly, and objectively. Let's move on. We are rounding up. Contribution to knowledge. If you have the contribution to knowledge, what is the contribution to knowledge? Why contribution to knowledge? When is it incorporated in the thesis? Who needs the contribution to knowledge? Okay, where to glean for contribution to knowledge? How to obtain right contribution to knowledge? Okay, what is the contribution to knowledge? That is the unique insights, findings, or advancements that your research brings to the academic field. That is what, if you are using the 5 W's and H. When is it incorporated in the thesis? Typically in the introduction and conclusion chapter, to clearly articulate the specific ways your research has contributed. Where to glean for contribution to knowledge? Through thoroughly review the existing literature, analyze how your research differs from or builds upon previous studies. Okay, why contribution to knowledge? It justifies the purpose and the importance of your research. Who needs the contribution to knowledge? The academic community, the potential supervisors, examiners, future employees, all the other stakeholders. How to obtain and write contribution to knowledge? Focus on being clear, concise, and compelling. Let's move on. And in closing, we look at further studies or open questions. Okay, what is this about? It's talking about areas for additional research. Okay, where to do further research, potentially at the same institution or in collaboration with other researchers or at different organizations with complementary expertise. Why further research or studies? To expand the understanding of the subject, validate findings, explore new applications. And also, which areas for further study? It can be any aspect of the topic that were not fully addressed because of time frame, because of financial constraints, and because of location. Okay, who will do the research? Who will do the further research? The original researcher or new teams of scholars, whoever is interested in that area of research. How to engage in further study? By securing additional funding, resources, and institutional support. Establish new collaborations and designing follow-up studies based on the limitations and implications for that. So I don't know if Dr. Godwin want to add something here.
Yeah, it is comprehensive enough.
Thank you.
And the second part will delve into some specific examples on how we use the 5 W's and H technique to articulate a specific problem. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you too. Yes, in closing, we have tried to explain using the 5 W's and H in every stage of your research, from the beginning to the end. Even in your publication of your research findings, you have to use it. Will help you. We are not compelling you, but it's a skill you need to develop to be part of you, because it is part of the tool is one of the tools that can help you solve problems and think through and be able to think deep on issues that you are trying to look at. So in conclusion, we want to appreciate you, our viewers, postgraduate students, researchers. Once you are able to sit down and watch this video, you can like and comment and share and subscribe. Share to your friends, to your colleagues, researchers like you. Continue to watch. We continue to roll out on areas of need for postgraduate students, for researchers, and for others that are in the research institution, anywhere they are, or any research institute or university setting. So that is the end of our presentation this evening. We appreciate you. Continue to follow on our YouTube presentations and videos. Thank you, Dr. Godwin, for being with me this day, and we will continue to bring more to you.
Thank you too, Dr. Olukemi, for the brilliant submission. Thank you.